Boom. We are honored that you could join us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hump Day Wednesday on Facebook Live. Hope you guys all having a great week. Um, Tonight we have Dr. Kaohimanu Akiona, who has some exciting news, actually. She just opened up her own clinic, the Kohala Coast Urgent Care there on our Hawaii Island. So we're going to hear about that tonight. Talk a little bit about the COVID numbers that came out today. Again, Dr. Tim Brown was on the spotlight the other day, the Star Advertiser spotlight, and he cautioned everyone that we're in this flat period. But the flat period means it's not going down, and while you may, the media may try to convince you, we know that COVID is still here, and it's not dropping as quick as the other surges did. And we have the new BA4, BA5 that's, in my estimation, has taken over as a dominant strain. Again, much of what you see in the news uh, really minimizes what's going on. I don't know if you paid attention. Now, Japan is the hotspot in the world, the hotspot. They are getting wiped out, hospitalizations, case counts. They're very, very, very concerned, and we are bringing the Japanese tourists in, and the state's very excited about it because of the money that it generates. But the fact of the matter is that COVID is still here, and we got to really pay attention. Our office just got hit. Two people in our office yesterday. Actually, one was on Monday, and one was yesterday. One of them have symptoms. The other one's asymptomatic. But no doubt that we'll probably see more with schools being open now. We'll see the impacts of lifting of the mask mandate. And we'll talk about this tonight with Dr. Akiona. But I'm sure most of you already saw, if you follow my page, you saw that the University of Hawaii is going to require masks, at least for the first month. You see, they're smart enough to monitor the surge, but not just monitor like our state does. Our state just has this habit of monitoring. Um, I'm confused. The media and other entities say the numbers are down, and other sources suggest it's not. Yeah, again, we got to be very careful when we rely on our local media. They are being fed this perception by our leaders, and that is what is driving the media. Um, my sister-in-law is moving back home in a week after living in Japan for the last 9 years teaching. She has always been amazed how low the vaccination percentage is in Japan. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's we should not be surprised, right? As restrictions are lifted, COVID will spread, and that is Dr. Tim Brown, Dr. Lee Altenberg. That's their message, right? Is we gotta squash the spread. We gotta mitigate the spread. We gotta eliminate the spread. But our state doesn't do that. That's why, again, back to UH. Kudos to UH. See, they're not bound by. They're independent. Yeah, they're a state entity, but they're independent. They make their own decisions, and it was so refreshing to see a state entity disregard the nonsense that is being vomited out by our governor and lieutenant governor, and actually taking action that's going to protect not only the students but their staff. The Department of Education, Board of Education, the governor, lieutenant governor, they don't. They're playing with fire, and that's what they're doing. They're playing with fire, and obviously, they're going to get burned. But at what expense, right? I mean, we all agree that kids need to be back in school. We all know, or we should know, that this variant is highly contagious. And while the data shows that the illness is not as severe as the prior strains, if you're properly vaccinated and boosted, that they seem to think it's okay to let it go. Well, that's not what the hospitals are saying, right? The hospitals are begging the governor to declare an emergency so we can get some staff, mainland staff, to come in to assist because they're all drowning right now. But no one cares, right? Because the money's rolling in, the tourist industry is booming. Maui, Kauai. Look at the lines at the airports, right? There is absolutely no concern for the health and safety of our residents and even our visitors. Just let her rip. And we're going to see in a very short, maybe couple weeks, the impacts. I'm disappointed that, you see the blurb on the news and that's it, but nothing being said by our governor or our lieutenant governor. It's disgusting. I'm so irritated with political commercials already. Of again, no mention of COVID except for our lieutenant governor's commercials. Of course, his basically tells the people that COVID is over and that we were top in the country. Well, he fails to acknowledge the fact that we were top in the country for number of cases, and but his commercials doesn't reflect that. And all the politicians, no one's talking about COVID. In fact, in the debates and the forums that I've been watching, all of the candidates have agreed that the mask mandate should have been lifted. That concerns me. But again, in their defense, they're not medical people. I challenge anyone on this show right now, any one of you, and we'll ask the doctor tonight. I don't know what her position is, but I can probably bet. I'll bet you $100. I know what it is. Any medical professional, legitimate medical professional, I challenge any one of you to find one that will agree with the lifting of the mask mandate in the middle of a surge in a pandemic. And I'm not counting about the lieutenant governor because he's a politician before a medical doctor. I'm talking about a real. I spoke to many. Not one agrees that the mask mandate in school should have been lifted. Not now. Not now. You're in a surge. You're in a very contagious surge. So, but I challenge anyone. I'm sure maybe there's a doctor on here right now. Maybe there's a nurse. Maybe there's someone on here that knows of a doctor. And I don't want no YouTube wizard. No, I don't care about those YouTube wizards that are more out to get likes and views than putting out the truth. I want to know from a Hawaii licensed doctor, anyone, and I'll gladly bring them on the show and explain why they agree, or if they agree, why they believe that the state was right in lifting the mask mandate in schools. Now, I do not buy this excuse or this justification that is dangerous for the kids. No, I agree that the kids should be in school. I will say that I believe the kids belong in the classrooms. But if you look at the ventilation issues in Hawaii, right? No, again, we're monitoring. They had 3 years, people. The Department of Education had 3 freaking years to deal with the ventilation. And at almost 3 years later, they come up and smiling, saying, "Yeah, we've identified them. We're monitoring. We're going to have our people monitoring." 3 years they had to go put CO2 monitors, to put ventilation systems, to modify classrooms with all the billions of dollars that they got. No, they didn't do it. So now we have kids unprotected because they're not wearing masks in classrooms that have poor ventilation. Well, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, I don't have to be a doctor to predict that we're going to see massive surges coming out of our classrooms. Uh, we will. I don't think we can avoid that. I don't think we can escape that. And the state stands by and says, even in the schools that have poor ventilation, even in the schools that have poor ventilation, you would think that they would say, hey, for the schools that have poor ventilation, that is dangerous. We're going to require masks. No, they're not touching the mask mandate because politically it's not a good issue. And that is where I have a problem, right? We shouldn't be allowing politicians to make medical decisions. We've said this 3 years ago. We should allow the medical experts to make the decisions as it relates to health, public health and safety in our public places and in our schools. I mean, we should. So anyway, I'm excited about tonight's discussion. Dr. Akiona will be on. She's in the green room, and we'll bring her on right now. There's a lot of people been waiting for the return of Dr. Akiona, and there she is. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Oh, no. Dr. Akiona, your Wi-Fi. There we go again. That Big Island Wi-Fi is horrific. We're gonna have to figure this out because she is frozen. Oh my gosh. Mr. Shirai warned me. He said, "I hope the connection is good." I can only control that the connection on our end, and our guests. You know, uh, we got to rely on their Wi-Fi. And right now, Dr. Akiona's Wi-Fi is gone. So I hope she can get that thing to work. Yeah, she is frozen in time. It's gonna bum me out because I really wanted to share some of the discussions. So let me just get back to what I was saying while she tries to get connected. Okay, here she is again. Let me get rid of this one. Oh, okay. Now she's all green.
Sorry.
Okay, you're okay. We got you. You're all green right now, so we should be okay. I know your Wi-Fi has some issues over there on Hawaii Island. How you doing? Oh, look at this. We got 3 guests tonight.
Yep. There she is. Hello. Long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I know you've been super, super, super busy, and I know you got some exciting news for us tonight. Um,
Yeah, it's a fine line, right?
right?
I realize how thin the line is between brave and stupid. It's like,
No, 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 man. I honestly believe, and I teach my kids this, and I'm so proud of them because they followed my advice to don't be afraid to take chances.
yeah,
There are
jump
no
off.
mistakes. There. It's not stupid. A lot of us here in Hawaii, we complain about the mainland people being successful. I mean, I see this a lot where people will say, "Oh, they have so much money." Well, they got money because they took that chance, they took a risk, they followed their dreams, they did what they're supposed to do, and you come successful. And as long as the passion is there, as long as the drive and motivation is there, and I see 2 of your reasons for your drive right there behind you, your daughter and your dog.
Yeah,
Um,
the
and
kids.
and this is the other thing. This is the other thing that I learned long time ago in a sales training I had probably 20 years ago. As long as the motivation, and no matter what you do, is to help people and
Yeah,
not make money, you will be successful. And we all know from knowing you for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years, that you definitely have a passion to help people. You've proven that. You've been in the trenches helping the less fortunate. You've been doing this at many times at with no compensation. So as far as the passion and the heart for doing the right thing and helping people, you already have it. So I put my bet in that you'll be successful. So
no, I think there's a few of your villagers that they'll message me sometimes, and then it's so the big, I think if there's a bunch of you that are in the same circles that I'm in, and so you may have heard, but maybe a lot of you haven't heard that so Dr. Miskovich and I just spoke to him like a couple hours ago. We parted ways in a good, like we're just in different phases of our careers, and I still talk to him a lot. And I mean, he's going to be welcoming a little baby granddaughter pretty soon. His son is joining practice. But like just in terms of kind of where we've been over this entire 2 years, just kind of talking about where we were even just 3 months ago, and then a year ago, and then 2 years ago. And he has the bird's eye view, like a lot of my mentors do, about like what it's been like since maybe over the past 20 years. And just it was time that I had to do something on my there's an opportunity to start a practice, and I did. So we've started a practice in the most ridiculous way. So we're literally building the plane as we're flying it. I came here to a residency in the same fashion. So we were building that residency as we were kind of learning, right? And so it's not unknown to me, but I think what I've been feeling lately is just that, exactly what you're saying. Like as long as I'm aligned to the right mission, then it actually feels a lot more worth it to be tired and stressed out, but have a little control over what the outcome is, because this cannot be a worse time to start a practice when there's basically no reimbursements. There's no colleagues. I think I've been doing the job of many doctors, so it's not like I'm going into a cush position to begin with. And Like, we're still fighting off just COVID. Um, you guys see it yourselves. Every Wednesday we get the gut punch, the reality check that
Well,
it's not done.
before we get into, because I do want to get your take on the numbers and the current situation. But there's a lot of viewers right now wondering what the heck is the exciting news. You kind of let it out a little bit, saying you're starting a new practice, but what have you done? Effective August 1st, I guess it was. What,
Yeah.
what have you done? What is it? And just tell us everything about your new clinic.
Okay. So Auli'i, she starts school next week. So in basically we started a new practice. I was fortunate enough to work with really great partners. One of the great partners I got to work with was the Mauna Kea resorts. And so, we've been testing a lot of the workers, and then we've been handling a lot of they're actually pretty high risk. A lot of them actually live on my side of the island, on the east side. And so now I have a space in the Hapuna, and I don't want to make you dizzy, but you want to open the door? So we're literally in the hotel itself, and so we are in a nice space on the sixth floor in the Westin Hapuna. We have an urgent care right now, and so we actually have set ourselves up in about maybe 2 weeks. Got all of the malpractice and all this kind of licensing stuff. I've been basically not sleeping because there's so many things that goes into this. And the intent was really, to me, the reason why this is something that I'm happy about is that the Mauna Kea understood the risk to their workers. And they heard me when I said their workers have some of the hardest times accessing care, and they bear a lot of the risk because tourism and all the visitors coming in. And so this kind of location allows me to be accessible to the workers and their families, but then also just support visitors that are coming. And so it's been kind of nice. We call ourselves Kohala Coast Urgent Care. Literally, we just opened on Monday, and we're still kind of, getting our packages and, putting our medicines away and stuff like that. But it's our third
So
day.
let me get this straight. So COVID happens. You're out there. You're doing what you do. Being the basic. No, I won't say the lone wolf because there's many others that were active. But you were out there in the trenches again, like I said, serving the underserved. And then you had this opportunity to operate and assist the Mauna Kea resorts by testing their employees, and then an opportunity comes up, and you have an opportunity now to create or build this brand new urgent care clinic, and you're housed in the Mauna Kea
Yes,
resort.
yeah. So at the Hapuna. So Mauna Kea is like
Oh, okay.
west, but so I'm in the Westin Hapuna. But there's all the residential areas around us, and really, I mean, Kailapa, the Hawaiian Homes, is within 10 minutes of us up north. There really isn't anything in the area, and so it's kind of nice because it was, I got to vaccinate. We were vaccinating the entire Kohala Coast, so we would go down. And there's so many of the workers. Like, I mean, I really do mean it when I say this is the new plantation model. This is where, I mean, my grandpa would have came and worked, and it's a lot of our local families that are employed by these folks. And so I thought it was in our best interest to kind of advocate for them, and then we can provide them some care. So a lot of them, they now maybe they catch the bus here, but they know that we're open. We try to cater to them so that it kind of, to me, it's we can leverage our presence for both sides of the coin, because I know we're not going to stop people from visiting, but I mean, at least we can help make it a little safer. And then also, it's kind of nice, I've been having a lot of good educational kind of conversations with visitors, just talking to them about how limited our resources are, like how important it is to be better stewards of kind of where we are at, and that it's just it's a tough time, because I mean, the messaging across everywhere is like everything's going to be okay, and I think it will, but it's not if we bury our heads in the sand and don't change a few things and address a few things.
I just wanted to highlight this comment from Chris. Congratulations, nothing wrong with plantation values. One of the things that just gets me really upset is when people tell me, Mel, your problem is you stuck in the plantation mentality. A lot of transplants come here, and for all those years I served on the council, I would always be accused of I gotta shed this plantation mentality, and that irritates me to no end. Because listen, I support the plantation mentality. Exactly what you're doing, the plantation model is the plantation mentality. And I will debate anyone, anywhere, anytime. You tell me what's good about the non-plantation mentality, and I will tell you what is good about the plantation mentality. The plantation mentality is when I can go over to my neighbor's house, two, three, four houses down, and pick the lychee from the tree for eat, and not get the cops called. That's the
Yeah.
plantation mentality. The plantation mentality is when three houses down the road, I get a call, Mel, can you come help because the lady that I'm taking care of fell and I need help. That's the plantation mentality.
Yeah.
People that don't believe in the plantation mentality honestly should not be living in Hawaii. And I know
Well,
I'm gonna piss off a lot of people,
no,
but
no, no.
that's how I feel. If you cannot support
Thank
and
you.
live with the plantation mentality, then you honestly do not belong living here in Hawaii. Plain and
I think,
simple.
well, I think to kind of address that, because I think, I went through something similar. Like, my family came here first. So my great grandpa is from Ilocos Sur. And so, I mean, my family was like in the plantations. We grew up in Haleiwa, something similar where, almost everybody was in the pineapple fields at some point. And so I think, I remember having an argument with Haunani Trask at some point, and because she was you had to have a class to get a Hawaiian Studies degree, and she was telling me about this like so I danced hula for Ed Collier at Iolani, and he loved Hapa Haole music, and for him the golden years of Waikiki was a really really good time. Like he just has really good memories of music everywhere and locals going into Waikiki, and she didn't agree with that. And so I think what I was telling her is I was uncomfortable telling him that he was wrong for just his view of how things were. And so I think now I'm a lot older. I can kind of think about that, right? So there's some good and some bad. And I think that my role as a physician is to make sure that I guard against the bad parts of the plantation kind of system, which was, essentially trying to keep people in that constant, basically, it locked them into that social class, and you were always just barely making it, and that is not okay, because I mean, that's essentially picking who gets quality of life and who doesn't. But the idea that we can all work together and we can support each other, to me, and that's what we choose to remember, is that, that we used to go bon dance together, that my grandpa was one of them who used to steal people's chickens, and then he became a cop. And so, it's like knowing that at some point all the aunties would give you lickings, but you were cared for by the whole village, right? And so there's the good side of things. I think this is why Hilo does so well in times of like pandemic, because they've always been like they're used to just kind of making do and helping each other, because they haven't kind of left that model of like real close tight knit community. But then there's the other side of it, right, where it's like we got to make sure that we don't ignore what it means for the fact that a big chunk of my island lives on the east side, and they're bussed over to the west side to work. And Mayor Kim made that a free ride for a reason. And that's part of that access to just a livable wage, and for me, access to care. So what does that, what does that look like? And then, so I think you're right. Like, I think there's good things, and that's actually how we've been surviving on the outer islands, especially because we don't get attention, we don't get resources. And so we just keep carrying on with our small, our community gardens. Let me just
Okay,
guard.
let me rephrase. If you cannot accept the plantation mentality, then you can move to Honolulu. That's okay. You can go to Oahu. But if you're on the neighbor islands, you better accept the plantation mentality, because that's just all we know. And I don't like when people threaten or make it sound like it's a bad thing. You're right. There are some parts of the old school plantation times where, yeah, but that has disappeared. And this whole community, the true melting pot system came directly out of the plantations. When people were, remember, we grew up making fun of each other. We grew up, and I can tell you that because I'm Portuguese, and 95% of the jokes were Portuguese jokes.
Portuguese jokes. They're good jokes.
You know, they are great jokes. And today you can still get away with saying a Portuguese joke, but you try to talk a Japanese joke or a Chinese joke, you will get sued. But the Portuguese, that's kind of accepted. Yeah, we that's what we were placed on Earth, to be made fun of. But who cares? I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. It's that's how we were raised. We all we all love each other, treat each other like brothers and sisters. And like you said, that's why the neighbor islands do well
Yeah.
during times of crisis. During times of crisis. So the big question: uh, Are you allowed to get patients? Are you allowed to get new patients that are not employees or visitors?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
a self-standing urgent care clinic where if I was in on the Big Island and I felt sick, I could just roll up and be treated?
Yeah, no, and that was the beauty of it. So it was kind of, I think the hotel, I think they envisioned having a physician for a while, just never worked out. And then we talked about it, and one of my main kind of points to the management, or my asks from them, was that the community be allowed to come. And it was like, I do all this work at the in the homestead. I do all this outreach in the streets, and I'll tell you a funny story. Actually, one of my street medicine patients set up shop in one of the nice residences over here. So the security people knew, because I told them, yeah, I think I saw like one of my very resourceful houseless people that I take care of, and apparently she moved herself into one of these residences. So I mean, they're not blind to what's going on, and I told them, like, one of the biggest things to me is that none of us exist in a bubble. So if I come here, I think it's a win-win, because I'm here, I can help the workers, but I can help their guests. But what about the community? And they said, yeah. So like a lot of people, they're gonna have stalls out front. So by the valet, there's 3 stalls that just say Kohala Coast Urgent Care, and then they have I have a finance person, Kristen, who is probably driving home right now, but they walked her through to show where the signs will be. And if you have a hard time walking, you can valet. They're trying to make this as accessible and pleasant as possible, because they feel like they understood, and this is why I like it, is that if you invest in your community and you can it shows they care, but also that it be accessible to everybody, that we cannot be exclusive, which is a different conversation than I had when we were looking at space in other resorts, kind of along the coast. When other resorts wanted us to work for them, it was like, oh, maybe not
Well,
the community.
let's give credit where credit is due. I mean, the visit industry oftentimes gets criticized, and so yeah, Hapuna, is that the Hapuna Prince? Is that what it's called?
Yep, the Hapuna Prince, and actually Ross Birch and the Visitors Bureau, they're like our Hawaii Island, they're on property as well.
Yeah.
And he listens, when I ask him questions. And then the general manager here is Craig Anderson, and their security guy, the head of security, is Michael Vasquez, and he's been responsible for kind of putting me in front of all of the different resorts, understanding, like, I was like, I'm really just worried about the workers. I'm worried about the workers, because when your workers get sick, they go to Puna, to their multi-generational home, and after they caught the bus. So just help me, man. And they really listened. All the security guys, a lot of the lead guys are local boys and have families themselves, and understand, yeah, like, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And so if we cannot take care of the workers, then everything goes downhill. So it was nice.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is just an amazing. That is a true partnership. Private. Uh, well, it's a private partnership, but it's awesome. And so many of the workers, the guests, um, and of course the residents around that area will have an opportunity. So are you actually? I know you open August 1st, but are you actually uh, practicing already? Are you starting to get people coming in?
Yeah. So the hard part was, it's the credentialing for insurance, because I think the dirty part of being a physician is the insurance people. Like, they like to take their time, and so in a lot of cases it shouldn't take this long, but they can take their time. So all of the people who have like Quest and all of like HMSA, like right now we are not able to bill the insurance. So we've been kind of looking at all the different venues for funding to subsidize, because it's right now cash pay, and then you can get reimbursement from your provider. But we understand what that means. Like, that's not accessible to average people. And so my money, luckily, she's been with me through like a Native Hawaiian Health, and she comes from like a federally qualified health center, so she understands when I'm like, well, if they can't pay, then I mean, like I can send them to the front, and then they can't pay. But understanding that I need to, I told her I'll do all the hustling and try and find some funding. But it is crazy because this was like, I can tell you, I can tick off the top of my head a bunch of people that get tons of funding and don't provide any care. It's just not going to the right places. So we did start a nonprofit arm to our clinic for that reason, so that we can figure out we can be creative and go for grants and write for stuff to supplement just the care that we know needs to happen without losing the shirts off our backs.
Well, I know we have a lot of villagers that have connections, or may have money, but the purpose of this show wasn't to solicit. But if you guys know anybody, or you have connections, grants, grant writers that want to help Dr. Akiona and her mission over there at Hapuna, please reach out to her. Please reach out to her, because
come golf.
I mean, we've seen. Yeah, come golf. I think Tyson Moises. I think me and Tyson going to show up one day, because after a round of golf, I gonna need to go to urgent care for the pains that I going incur.
We got you. We get IV sedation.
I guess I just trying to say I'm so excited because we saw you even when you were struggling, when you were very open with us, and you shared sometimes on private phone calls that not necessarily made it on the show, but I saw the trials and tribulations that you were going through during this period, and you never stopped, Doc. You never stopped, and I'm so happy that you got this clinic, and I'm hoping that the villagers out there on the Big Island can spread the word and let people know that there is now a clinic out there on the Kohala coast, and make sure you guys check it out. Check it out. So the other big question is your daughter an intern? Is she a nursing student? Is she gonna? Yeah, are you gonna become a nurse and a doctor?
No, so so Kamehameha Kapalama, she's going to middle school. It's going to be her first, so intermediate starts for her next Monday. So luckily she's here, and I asked her, and so she's like, no, I don't want to be a doctor. And I was worried about that because I watched Nisko with his kids, and they went medicine. So I was like, that's pretty darn good, knowing what it looks like. She said maybe law or something different. I told her I'll build a nonprofit and she can run it. She can find something different, but she don't like blood, and she does not like hearing all of our gory stories.
Okay. I was just gonna make a prediction that she would change after watching you serve your community, but if she don't like blood, then that might be rough.
I think that's where it's at. Yeah, because I mean, she's been around all of the funny uncles. It was the wounds. Like, she would stand there and talk with them, but she don't want to look at the big wounds or anything like that. And but yeah, I mean, we have the same crazy family, so I think the human side of the medicine isn't the problem. It's just all the gore.
Yeah. You get over it quickly, though. You get over it quickly.
Yeah.
I was a cop, man. I saw things that people should not see.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not comfortable, but you get used to it. And but I think watching her mom serve the community will definitely she'll be on the same track. Maybe not as a doctor, but go dentist. Be a dentist.
Oh, I hate the dentist.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I needles and dentists and centipedes. That's my three. I cannot.
Okay. Centipedes. You can handle that. Yeah. I know, man.
No. Centipedes, man. I'm out.
I remember at University of Pittsburgh, the dental school was across the street, and so we were all stressed out and gloomy, and they would be outside and look happy. They're smiling. They're eating lunch together, and we would just be like, ugh, look at those guys, ugh. And in my class in particular, there was like 8 of them that were already dentists, but they were going back to medical school to be OMFS, the oral maxillofacial. And so they do tons and tons of school. But I mean, and they were like, yeah, it's the lifestyle is different. But from what we have higher rates of mental health, like depression and suicide and stuff like that. So there definitely is, it's a it's a lifelong commitment to being around very strange things.
People are asking how they can donate to your nonprofit. I don't think she has. You don't have a nonprofit set up, right?
I do. So we have an
Oh,
arm. I'll reach out to my CPA and see what, because it's my CPA is Kristen Gallagher, and she's my money head. Because so basically what I do is I tell her what happened was Misco and I were doing all these services, and I told them I don't want to stop any of these services. How do I do that? And everybody just like stared at me, and it was like. And I was like, no, but I'm serious. We still want to provide the in-home vaccinations, and we still want to do the people that are homebound. We still got to take care of them. And I was like, I still need to be mobile. HPM still needs, like all these organizations and businesses still need the help. And so she would think about it. She's like, okay. And then she and I had agreed that we would do this nonprofit. It took us about a year and a half to really settle things, but then it's nice because my board of directors, it's like the athletic trainer that I work with at UH Hilo, Uncle Dane Silva, who's one of the La'au and Lomi Lomi guys in the community, and he advocates for Puna. Christina Higa, who is one of the advocates for telehealth, Pacific Basin Telehealth Resource Center. Dr. Lori Hopman is one of the community physicians. Jesse Ebersol, who I used to work with on street medicine, so the medic side. Shelly Ogata, who's a nurse, and she's a public health nurse. And so it's like all these people that I kind of met along the way that now I'm just like, okay, let's all do this thing. And I don't know what it is, but it's going to be super fun. And I cannot guarantee you money yet, but so it's like-minded people that are okay with my being cautiously optimistic and just trying to figure out how to keep things moving forward. Because I really do think that I'm all smiles now, but it's just like dire out there. I mean, it's like I just had like this argument with, not really argument, but I was like, these medical groups, because I got to join a medical group and we talk about reimbursements and stuff, and I'm like, I just don't see what the point is for me to join another medical group if you guys are going to focus on Honolulu and you're not going to listen to me, because I'm telling you, the Big Island, the Kauai, Maui, we need a different focus. You need to understand that if you're not actively engaging us, then it's disrespectful to all of the people we're serving. I mean, it just, yeah. They're like, I'm like, no. Like, this is real. Like, you got to engage. And so that I had another, you're a very passionate person talk today. So yeah, I am.
well, there's no question about the passion. Talk to your money person and find out how we can help. And I'll definitely, we'll just paste the crap out of it over Facebook and social media. And we really all want to be part of this and part of your success. It's only right that we do this for you, as you have helped our communities for so long. So.
No, and I think it's nice because I talk to my friends, and they think I'm crazy, which I know, but
that means you're on the right track.
Yeah, no, that's what they said. So they were like, essentially, because I told them a couple people, I got the this isn't the right thing, or what difference? It's still the same things that they said to us in residency. What do you think one doctor is going to do? Or and that is the mentality, right? So I told we're doing this telehealth thing with the state librarians. So the state librarian actually designated space in every single library for telehealth. And this meant the world to me because I love the library. I just love the library. And the biggest thing to me is they cannot turn away people. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, how much money you make. My homeless people can go there. And they are going to be able to provide MiFi, laptops, just a safe space to do a telehealth appointment. And so my job right now, like what I volunteered for, was to help them roll that out. What does that look like? And let's make sure that it's practical, because I just didn't want somebody academic buying something that didn't work. So we're actually piloting it in Na'alehu with our little group. And the idea being then we can make our suggestions and we can roll it out statewide. And my goal long term, we were like, then certain hubs, certain libraries are a little bit more staffed and have a little bit more space. And then that's why I was reaching out to a couple of my friends, because they're specialists, right? And I'm like, so what would you want on that side? What training would you need? And by the way, can I license you in Hawaii, and then can you support us? And then eventually, can you just come? So I told them it's part of the plan to just sucker a lot of people into playing golf over here and then never going home. That's my goal.
Well, I will be there with Mr. Moises. We'll definitely plan that trip out in a very, very near future. Um, let's switch gears for a little while. We'll come back later to the clinic, but I wanted to switch gears. You saw the numbers today. You've
Yep.
again, you haven't you've been real busy, but you haven't stopped working with COVID yet. Based on what you're seeing over this week and last week, I mean, 21 deaths this week and 22
Yep.
deaths last week. I think, in the last month or month and a half, I don't have the count, but I would guess it's well over 100 people already. I don't think 21 or 22. I don't think 10. I don't think 5. I don't think any death is acceptable. But what? Just give you some time to share what your bird's eye view of the COVID pandemic in Hawaii as of this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the elephant in the room, right? It's always there. And so I think a lot of people, we've been hearing a lot more people talking about the return to school. I mean, the hotel, so I can tell you the hotel's packed, like they're sold out. So we know visitors are coming. They're not as aware about the situation on the ground because when they come here, it's a open. We're wide open for travel. The people. So I kept on providing care, but I stopped engaging in a lot of the things that we needed. Um, I stopped fighting over it. So, in our county, we never stepped up more testing. We didn't step up any more like, test kits distribution. We really are just saying everything is fine how it is, knowing full well it is not. Um, so it was kind of just word of mouth. People would just come, they would refer to me. So I do know that a lot of people they were provided home test kits and they were using them appropriately. They're no longer even bothering to report to the Department of Health for a lot of cases because it's no one followed up. And so I'm trying to. It's such a weird place to, or like a line to walk, because I need them to believe in public health. Like I need them to believe that there is a system in place, and I don't want to lie to them. So it's just kind of, I try to be as honest as I can, right? So our hospitals were overwhelmed again. Kona Hospital had been setting up the tent outside of the hospital again. The admissions team. So Dr. Knox is one of the former directors, and he retired. He's joining me, and he's one of my mentors. And he was like, God, there's just so many in there. We haven't really gotten a good handle on either the community side of things or even just getting good access to the treatments themselves. I can tell you that the education around that hasn't been very great. So a lot of people, and I don't know how to fix that single-handedly, but it is like kind of explaining to people why Paxlovid is important, why it's important to still get your booster. And I guess what I've been doing is I've been trying to get people to stop leading with, I know you're tired of COVID, right? Because I don't, it's not going to go away yet. I don't think it will for a long time because we are the gateway of the Pacific. So the deaths are an indication of what we already knew. And I think, that's the hardest part is it doesn't feel good to be right. And there's
Yeah,
not really much we can do about that, where there isn't any vindication ever. Just
yeah. I always enjoy telling people I told you so, but this time it doesn't feel right when you and it's not just us. It's, I mean, as I said before you came on, all the medical experts, are true medical experts, not politicians, but true medical experts are voicing their concern about the surge, about the variant, about the new variants.
yeah,
University of Hawaii today announced that they're going to require masks in not just their classrooms, but in other uh, in other facilities as well. They're taking the safe road, and they're giving it till September 19th, I believe. So about the first month, and they're gonna because they're waiting to see what BA5 does.
yeah,
Our state, on the other hand, has basically conceded. They're in fact they're not even conceding, because to concede means that you're accepting the fact that you have been defeated. No, they actually believe that this is as good as it's going to get, and we better learn to live with it. And that means we're not going to put kids or masks on our kids in school, even though we know that this variant is much more contagious than any of the previous ones. I don't know about Kamehameha schools. I'm not sure if they're going to require masks, but what are your thoughts on that? Again, understanding Japan, now the number one hotspot in the world, um, out of control. Hospitals are at crisis in many parts of Japan, and yet we are bringing them in uh, by the plane loads. No mask mandates. What are your thoughts about
Yeah.
the schools and the decision that the state, the Department of Health, and the Department of Education made at this current time?
I remember I had a conversation with one of my old, like, he's retired, and we were talking about other bad moments in health history, because he believes that we're living basically like one of the worst. Um, and it was kind of, and it's hard, but it feels like it's touching on every aspect of our life. So it's just this kind of like global, um, not well, like we're all, everything seemed upside down. And so I was talking to him about specifically the schools. And so this year Kamehameha chose not to have us on site to test, so I don't have to be back there at Kea'au, and my daughter just had her orientation. So similar to DOE, and they said, they're like, oh, just per the DOH, we don't have to require masks. It's optional, and they do recommend it. I get it, but it's just I think that's the problem. So a lot of the questions I'm getting around these, like for librarians, and we're talking about training and stuff like that, I told them I think probably the biggest thing, the most important thing that we're all going to have to do is kind of strong arm the mentality and like the mindset. It's a mindset thing. So at this point, it's helping people understand that when we say everything is optional, that was a direct response to all the people, like, protesting masking. So we let them win, and they don't bear the same brunt of the bill. You have people with high risk family members that are going to suffer more, and the multi-generational households that are going to suffer more, and the people who cannot access any care, they're going to suffer more. So we really did cater to a very small group of people that were very, as you would say, not plantation minded. They were not community minded. They were more concerned about their personal liberties. And for some reason, the scientists, the doctors, the politicians, they just kind of seem to care more about those people. And they don't like it when we ask questions about that. K through 12 should not, we shouldn't be telling them if we're going to give them an option. I think there's two ways. I was talking with one of the principals about this. So when we say, hey, we're going to set up these vaccine clinics, right, at your school, and everyone, a bunch of people were immediately like, no. And I said, look, if you don't want to get the vaccine, you don't have to come. But ideally, what you want to do is give everybody that safety net, because not everybody has the ability to go and find it on their own. So you want to make it as easy as possible to be safe for the people, for the lowest common denominator, and you don't want to make it harder. And I think that's part of the reason why our state is failing. They've made it essentially harder for everybody. And so now when we think, like, and I've been saying it for a couple of years now, when you think of who is vulnerable and who is marginalized, it's hard to believe, but if you look around your house, it's us, it's all of us. It doesn't matter. Unless you're in Honolulu or you have $1 million in your bank account, majority of us are actually now vulnerable and marginalized because of these really, it seems small, but they all add up, right? So the way that we're approaching public health is very cavalier, and not everyone has an equal share. We don't split the check evenly. So I think that's my biggest problem with what's going on right now.
That's actually a really great way of putting it out. We don't split the check or the bill. We don't. And I for the life of me, I cannot understand it. I guess the political advisors, all these people advising politicians, convince them that if they supported a mask mandate, that it would hurt their campaigns. Because it's incredible how well, people ask me, I'm running for office. You ask me, I'll tell you straight up. No, I don't think they should have lifted the mask mandate. I absolutely think that was a mistake. But all the rest that I've seen, even those that I support, came out and said that they wouldn't, that they think it should be left to the parent. Well, again, like you just said, that parent is not going to be the one facing the brunt of the impacts to the hospitals, the impacts to business, just business. People, businesses cannot function because they don't have workers. But it's this whole. I don't understand. Uh, Medical experts they make it very clear that no, we don't think we should remove the mask mandate in schools. Even the scientists that we have on our show, Dr. Tim Brown, Dr. Lee Altenberg, very very adamant about the importance of keeping the mask mandate, especially since we just saw in the report that the ventilation in our schools aren't very good. There are some classrooms, and they make it seem well only a small percentage or whatever, 7 classes have poor ventilation, but you're still allowing those kids to get in that classroom without masks. Those classrooms, the whoever sits in that classrooms for the day, are going to go home. They're going to go to the sports field. They're going to go mingle with other people, and this virus is going to spread.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, Doc. I mean, and again, I put the challenge out there before you came on. Any doctor, and even if you may know one, I don't know, that supports the removal of the mask mandate, I'd love to talk to them. I'd love to have them on the show.
That with the recent kind of change, the challenges to like women's health and everything like that, I've been reading a lot. So we have these toolkits for how to kind of deal with messaging and how do we talk to people, that because I think part of it has been the complacency of some of my own colleagues. So it's kind of just like the we'll agree to disagree thing, and it's just like no. Like, I mean, we have to have a little bit more bite in us, unfortunately, and because we saw it was dangerous 2 years ago when we were telling people to just make better choices, and I was like, my parents were teenagers when they had me, so I mean, if you told them make better choices, I mean, they made the best choices they possibly could, and things could have gone very, very differently. It really depends on the resources people are given, and the resources that people are given are supposed to be given to them by the DOH, by the government. I mean, ideally that's what we're paying taxes for. The education that our kids get, those are basic stuff that we're supposed to be given, that would allow us to make better choices. And if we're not getting that, I mean, if you don't have good access to tests like we did in the beginning, and then we don't have access to good masks, and then we don't have good access to vaccines, and we don't have good access to treatments. I mean, it's just kind of like, I think that was my hardest part, was I cannot watch Brooks Bear or like any of those guys that are giving reports because they're so peppy. And I'm like, what do you have to be peppy about, man? Like, we have nothing and you're not doing anything. And, it's just, and if I had to revisit 2 years ago and, watch people kind of go through they'll just make their own choices, make better choices was, I think at some point when we had little outbreaks, I think we had I think it was a funeral and then people got sick too, right? They need to make better choices. I think that's probably what weighs me down the most. And that's what I shared with the guy from the medical group that I'm going to join, was just that all of these kind of la-di-da mentality assumes reasonable care. It assumes that we all have reasonable everything. And I told him, like, that's been out the door since like the 90s at this point. Like, this is not, we're not in that. So it's not fair to say stuff like summarize things like that. Like, we could all just let the parents decide. And like, yeah, we're not saying that they shouldn't have control or they shouldn't love their children, but you need to give them the right resources to then make those decisions. And that means that that's a sunk cost. And I think that's where people don't want to truly invest, because it's not going to make you any money. you need to sink some invested cost into everyone, just giving them really good information, really good education, and really good support, because the process of learning all of this stuff requires some question and answers, some challenging, some like head scratching, some like it was never a spoon fed kind of like a spoon feed deal. I mean, I don't I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just I think that's probably where majority of our problems lie, is just that the investment, the true investment in meaningful change, is going to require money, time, resources, and in some cases, it'll have to go to the it has to go to the marginalized and the vulnerable. Like, that's where it needs to go, which fortunately for you guys, because I said 5 minutes ago, it's all of us. So we all we all need it.
There is no there is no middle class already in Hawaii. You're
No.
either rich or you're poor, and that is very clear. But I think what bothers me is that as far as schools go, and again, UH, to me, that is a very loud statement that
Yeah.
UH made today. I mean, it's huge. It
Mm-hmm.
basically says, we're not listening to you, DOH. We're not listening to you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. No, we are going to protect our students and our staff. So I think it's huge.
It is.
And I think, people should pay attention to that and understand the gravity of that statement. But this is what bothers me is, and my kids are all old already, but if I had a child in school, I have the right to keep my kid home, homeschool them, or do virtual learning, which we know isn't ideal. But we are compromising the safety of our kids and their families and their kupuna
Mm-hmm.
to make it to satisfy or pacify that loud minority.
Yeah.
Well, it should have been, we're gonna keep the mask mandate, and if you don't want to wear a mask, then you have the option of homeschool or virtual learning, because we are going to stick to making sure that our kids are safe, that our staff are not just the teachers, but the school staff, the custodians and the cooks and everyone else.
Yeah.
But they completely, like you said, they let them win,
Yeah.
and that's at the expense of our kids, and that
Yeah.
just confuses me. So when
Well,
UH comes out and says, "Hey, we're sorry, guys. We're concerned. We're listening to the experts. We're not listening to the politicians. We're going to do what we believe is right and is safe." I think that's just, like I said, that's a huge message that I hope people can appreciate and read between the lines. They're doing what's right.
I mean, it was good, because we're at I help out UH Hilo. We've always worked with their athletics groups, and so it was nice kind of watching them over the 2 years, and we understand they're kids, they're young, they do risky things. I mean, we had a few little clusters, and we would talk to them, and the reality is, like, you got to be more aggressive than just basically, you have kids, and I've dealt with a lot of children. This one's not like that, but you're gonna tell them till you're blue in the face what to do, and they will do their own darn thing. And so, like, if you set it up to kind of just by default be safer, it is better for the community, especially when, like you're saying, I mean, a lot of people, our circles are so small. And I think that was one of my things with Kumeme, and why I was so vocal and upset with them is, we have a lot of resources. I'm an alum. I'm very proud to be from that school. I benefited a lot. I know that. But I just look at all of the split families. So I had a chance to just kind of like voice my concerns, and I'm for every Kamehameha school kid you serve, there's some DOE kids right next to them, and so like our circle is their circle. And so I was looking at all of the private schools that do a good job, so like Ponoho has their own process. At HPA, we were at the first year we were testing up there, and they have the resources, and so like these groups could actually kind of help the community around them by doing that. I think HPA did that because they understood that their kids were coming from different places, and they wanted to make sure their community was safe. But Kamehameha has so much opportunity to help more. And so that was one of the things that was hard for me, is that the UH making a statement like that, if we had a few, like a bunch more making that similar statements, I don't know why. I was really sad when they were like, as the DOH are saying, because they're doing the whole, if you're exposed in class, you don't have to be at quarantine, but if you're exposed at
Oh
home,
my
yeah.
God.
And I just like I just wanted to break my computer, because I'm like, what? So
Doc, I heard that. I heard that. I actually had to watch it again because I first learned of it on Spotlight with Dr. Kemble. I had to rewatch it because it didn't make any sense. And sure enough, that's exactly what she said. So then I waited until the document came out from the Department of Health, and I read it, and it is exactly what she said. So I'll ask you as a doctor,
yeah,
what the heck is the difference if you get exposed in a class or at home? What is a virus act differently if it's a school exposure or versus a home exposure or a restaurant exposure? That's
yeah.
insane.
Little known fact, yeah, like little known fact that if you catch it from somebody that you went to school with, but you just went to school with, you don't live with, that it's not dangerous. Ah, it's like,
First,
come
how doc,
on.
this is how do you determine where you got exposed? Unless it's a cluster, unless you went to a funeral and
Mhm.
70%, then you can safely say that you got it at the funeral. But there's no way of knowing. We have
No,
two
and
people in our office right now with COVID. No one can tell because we
yeah,
don't. It's the contagious or the infectious period can be before symptoms, and it could be
yeah.
3 to 5 days. It could be after. It could be after. The
And our
possibilities.
memory, our ability to remember is really, we're colored
Absolutely.
by suggestion a lot of times. So you'll only remember, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I went on that airplane, and then your wife would be like, do you remember the other thing you did? And so I mean, it is such a flawed, just it's like blows my mind. Like how, like, I guess we just
It's
gave up, right? It's like we don't even need to. uh,
I wonder, before the Department of Health comes up with a very stupid policy like that. That is, I think that's politically driven and not medically driven. Obviously, um, there's no way a medical person would recommend that. That's kind of just plain stupid. But I was thinking, can you imagine the pressure that the University of Hawaii had from our state leadership? Can you imagine? Because it definitely makes the DOH and the DOE look bad when DOH does it. So I can only imagine how difficult. And again, we give credit where credit is due. I'm not sure who made that decision. If it was a UH president, or I'm sure he has his staff that goes out and analyzes these types and said, for the safety of the kids, and the staff will do it. But you got to give them credit for doing this and basically saying we're not following you, state. We're doing this on our own. And I think that's a very
you
strong
have like
statement.
a group of people, and I know that at least from the athletic side, because like a lot of it, the risk is the athletics and the housing, right? And so like, and Manoa definitely has a much bigger housing program than we do over here, but those were like the big, they all, at least in Hilo, we had to make sure we had a plan for those, because those are the ones that are traveling the most. And then what to do if somebody got exposed and they're in housing, how to quarantine them, where to isolate them, and stuff like that. So I think, at least based on how we had the discussions last year, it was, there's a group of them, and so like they have a physician, they have a couple physicians, and the people that are, they're invested because they're teaching on campus as well. I think the hard part for me really was the DOH, because before, when Misko and I were like more engaged in kind of causing good trouble, like just trying to hold people accountable, we knew who was where, and kind of where the telephone, like you play that telephone, where the messages were getting passed. Now I don't really know, because it's just the people that I deal with, even within the DOH, where, so with this telehealth program, I deal with a bunch of people, and then with the vaccine program, I deal with some. It even within the hierarchy of their groups, it's hard to figure out where information gets passed, and that worries me, because I think that's a reflection on the greater, just what the bigger structure is. where I hear more from Brooks Bear than I do from everybody else, and I don't think that's good at all, because
Well,
who
it's
knows?
definitely not how it should be. We haven't heard a doggone peep from our leaders. Again, I mean, you watch the commercials, political commercials. They try to convince you that pretty much COVID is done, and that's what drives me nuts. They're all upset, so busy fighting with each other. They're not even understanding that we have a crisis going on right now. And some people have actually made the decision to accept the fact, or it's not a fact, accept the myth that COVID is gone.
Mm,
And I'm sad for them. I pray for them because
yeah.
it's not gone. And I will make a prediction right now that I would say within the next month to 6 weeks, you will see the mask mandate reinstated at school, because they will have no choice because of the number of kids that won't be able to go to school and the number of teachers that are not gonna be going to school because of exposure and positive tests. I don't see how we're going to get away from that. That's just this virus is very predictable, and the state, our leadership, the elected ones anyway, have just basically said no. We are not going to interrupt or disrupt the current surge of the economy. We're not going to do it. We're not going to give an inkling that Hawaii is not a safe place to come. If we reinstate the mask mandate, whether it's for schools or businesses or whatever, it'll send a message to the visitors that hey, Hawaii might not be a convenient place to come. That's what's driving the decisions, I think, and I think it's horrible, and I think it's negligent. So I'll make that prediction right here that in the next within the next 6 weeks, you'll see the mask mandate be reinstated.
Yeah.
Totally non-scientific. That's just my gut telling
No,
me
I mean
because I
you're
don't see how we're
you're
going to avoid.
we are not operating on scientific things anymore, apparently. But I did see that, I think somebody commented on Punahou, kind of mentioning that in school transmission was low risk, and so I think that's the hard part, right? Is what I saw from different like things that people shared with me is just cherry picking of data. Um, like when we are kind of focusing on the fact that we fared the best during COVID. It's so pretty early on. I was talking with the DOH people, and I was saying the reason why we did so well early on is because this our groups like PMG, we were in all of this nursing homes trying to make sure that old people didn't die, because we learned from Washington. So we were trying our best to make sure that no deaths happened in nursing homes, and that actually offset a lot. And we realized that because about a year in, we were already kind of shooting ourselves in the foot for some grants that we wanted, because we fared well in terms of mortality, so the death part of things. We're still riding that benefit like to today, because we did so well the first time around that we bought ourselves this kind of buffer zone, that's kind of buying the politicians this time to talk crap. But you're right. I think I see what I I can definitely say that the visitors are saying they have no idea that it's dangerous. They're traveling all over. We have the volcano and all these things that they're going to go see. Nobody, they're not wearing masks. The staff here are, majority of them are, because they know. I told them, I'm like, this one doesn't even care if you just had COVID, you're going to get it again. We're talking about R naught again, about it basically meeting or surpassing measles. So I'm like, you're officially like back in the time before your vaccines. So a few of the local people actually came to get vaccines who hadn't been vaccinated before, because they're like, great, I can't even be in an elevator with people anymore. Like, no, like if the risk is too high. And so it's just it sucks, because we're putting all of the impetus on each individual person, and then you're dependent on the circle of people, and not everybody has a village like yours. So like,
Yeah. Well, again, like you see, they pick and choose the context of the messaging to
mhm,
fit their desire, not even their need, but their desire. And
yeah,
I keep it baffles me that there is no dispute in the data that long COVID exists. There
yeah,
is no dispute in the data that you can get COVID over and over and over again. And in fact, we saw it even with this new Paxlovid rebound. It happened to my older brother. He has it again, and he had just had it, got the Paxlovid, and he just like the president got it again.
Mhm.
Um, but no one is giving the long COVID issue the attention that it deserves. Well, I shouldn't
Yeah.
say that, because you have the warriors, the heroes like the Tim Browns and yourself and Dr. Altenberg, but it doesn't get to the level of dissemination like
Mhm.
the message of, oh, the illness is less severe, oh,
Mhm.
the deaths, no, that gets all the airtime. Long
Yeah.
COVID gets zero. The bottom line is this: you do not want to get COVID, and we should not be facilitating areas that promote COVID, like classrooms and so forth. So
No, you're right. And
it's
because
just
the long
it's
COVID thing, because I think it's a real risk, and we're starting to understand a little better with kids, and then definitely we're seeing the long-term impacts, and it's like the more time we get, the more we get to understand. But and I think that was one of the to credit Hapuna and their folks, that was one of the things that they listened to, because HPM, when so I know they're statewide as well. We had talked about it, like one of their departments, got sick, and so then we started standing up vaccines and a little bit more education, just giving them the opportunity to even ask a medical professional question. And a year out, right, we started seeing people post COVID having their heart attacks and having the complications from long COVID. And so what I was telling them and all the businesses we're working with is, you got to look at it, right? So you're looking at the people who are highest risk to get the virus, now have the least access to follow up with anybody. Many of them hadn't even established care, so nobody even knows. And so their health, their ability to even just double check, like, no one could tell them that what they were feeling was worrisome. And so that, to me, is the biggest, saddest piece of the negligence mystery, is that a lot of people are kind of silently going to go away, and their families will miss them, but they never were a part of the care continuum, because they were young, they were working, they didn't think that this was going to matter, because we told them it wasn't going to matter. It was just a cold, and then they suffered from long COVID and had a heart attack in their late 30s. And if you didn't know they had COVID, they were just a very young
yeah,
death, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's happening on all of our islands. I think Scotty asked about that, just like what the death rates in all the outer islands. What the hard part about that is, we know the death rates are going up, but the how do you say, the reconciliation, or like knowing, catching up the deaths to the counts and stuff like that, there's always that delay. There's an administrative delay, and then there's the who knows what's going on at the DOH delay, but just there's always a delay. So we know that the COVID death rates have been increasing. Um, we anticipate it going up again, but it's mainly in the high risk folks, and that's why they're focusing on the over 50s, because it's that the age in and of itself was a issue, and then for us, it's the same vulnerable populations, the people whose immune systems aren't working very well, and yeah, sorry, I
And no, 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 you're right, and I don't think the metric of the number of deaths is what we use to make policy decisions as far as health and safety. I mean, only deaths. I mean, I guess if you go talk to the 21 families of the people that died, they might have a different perspective.
yeah,
The kids and grandkids or whatever, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, I think they might have a different perspective. What is the level, what is an accept, I've been asking this for a long time of our leaders, what is an acceptable level of death? Is 21 okay? Is 21 a week okay? In is that in it hasn't reached a threshold where we got to start maybe warning people in a more proactive way? Or what is it? Is it 50 a week, or is it 100? Then you can start changing your commercials and telling people, hey, guys, we're in a crisis. What is the acceptable level of death? I think 21 is too high on something that we
yeah,
can control and we can reduce with some simple modifications to the safety protocols. But
yeah,
no. So to me, as a non-expert, non-scientist, as a lay person looking at this, to me, the only thing I can reasonably believe is that 21 deaths a week is perfectly
Is
fine for our governor, our lieutenant governor, and our state leadership. 21 is okay, guys. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. We only lost 21 people last week. We're going down because we had 22 last week. So we're doing better.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not
And
acceptable.
it's not
It's not.
in their circle, you know. I
Apparently
think that
not. I just had I had my fair share of losses, and it's not. It's hard to swallow when I know that we aren't doing everything we can to save people's lives. And 21 is way too many. Way too a week. Imagine this, Doc. And I know we're at. I'm sorry, we're after 8 o'clock, and I didn't want to give you some time to talk about the clinic. But imagine this. Yesterday on the news, Hawaii, Big Island, the number of traffic fatalities. Now they're all trying to figure out how they're going to stop the traffic fatalities from happening. Accidents, right? If you had 21 deaths in 1 week on a stretch of highway, you don't think that we would be out there doing
right.
enforcement, lowering speed limits? We would be doing everything we possibly can. But in this state right now, 21 deaths is acceptable. And that's why I say, guys, August 13th, election day, you guys got to be careful with your vote.
Yeah.
I got to plug that in because that is our time to pick the people that we believe. And I'm not going to say, I'm mentioning no names. You pick the people that you believe have our best interests at heart, and not these people going out telling the world, selling them snake oil. Knock it off. We have that opportunity. Anyway, Doc, it's 8:07. I appreciate you hanging out and your daughter and your
No.
dog. I wanted to go back to the clinic, give us a recap on what how we can help, how we can be patients, and what can we expect going forward in the next few weeks, few months
Yeah.
for the Kohala Coast Urgent Care.
No, thanks. I should actually put, we do have a website, so you can see it's not done. I had to like throw everything together while I was still. So we're at, I'll put it in the link, but we're at kohalacoasturgentcare.com. And so we did urgentcare.com, and you'll see some familiar faces there. And so we are doing kind of like the online thing, so don't laugh at that website. I literally my daughter is probably better at it than I am, but we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and it's just mainly to kind of, the initial part is getting the word out. The second part, I think in tandem, was getting funding, which you would think, knowing that it's we're at critical times, access to care is hard. You would think it would be easier to get funding for physicians, but it is not. So if any of you guys have good leads on that, we're here. So we were able to see patients. I think my skill set, I like that I'm going to be able to flex all my skill sets. So I've been doing a lot of wound care and a lot of injections, a lot of pain management, because I was doing things on the streets. And then now I can do a lot more procedures here. And I'd like to be back in just seeing patients again. But a lot of what I do right now is going to be administrative and talking story and making sure that policies, that we stay on top of this in terms of, I don't want to lose any of the kind of the momentum we had with COVID. And I think that the COVID vaccination, COVID treatments, the upcoming monkeypox issues, all of this, they're not individual problems. They're all within the same issue, and that's making sure that everybody gets a fair crack at making good choices because they're provided with the same level of good care. That's all, that's what we have to all advocate for. I think it is important that you vote. I think, Kansas just showed us yesterday. We got to show up and we got to say what we got to say, and you have to vote. I think I used to give my dad crap about it because he's a little bit apathetic. What difference one vote make? It makes a difference. Just make sure that we're there and engage. I can say that this whole pandemic thing and this whole access to care thing, No, it doesn't get at that. It won't get worse if we all engage and we all kind of try to do something. Um, yeah, I'm in Kohala Coast. We are open on the website. It says I think we're Monday through Friday 9 to 5. That's our general hours. This is because it's just me by myself, and then Saturdays 9 to 2. But honestly, I've been taking calls and just answering messages late at night. Um, I think it's this one small thing that we can do is to get get my foot in that door and just hold space for what I think is coming, which I think more people are coming. I think I can convince more people to give us some time and give us some of their expertise from my friends in the mainland and some people who need to come back. We just have to be I think in the next few months that's what I'll try and share with you guys is the different people who are going to try to contribute. I have Dr. Kong with me, who is amazing. Dr. Knox with me, and I have a couple more joining. And I think our vision is that things have to get better, and part of the way it has to get better is that doctors like me, and there are several other really great ones, Dr. Jen Shrestha down in Kau. There's good ones, right? You want to just build around them and just help them be the doctors that they want to be, and that's kind of what I hope I can make here, because there's nothing like hanging out in our clinic. And we're all just having a good time talking about COVID. Everybody's getting their shots, because we're urgent care, we do all of the well child stuff, the well adult stuff, but also the acute stuff. And it's just a pleasant place to be out here. I mean, you can go to the beach and just chill for a little bit. We can talk through your mindfulness and meditation, and we can do some de-stressing at Hapuna, and then I can bill your insurance for it.
Yeah, I don't got a problem with that. I pay enough insurance premiums that they should be paying for my stress relief. Anyway, Doc, I just want to say thank you. I know you're busy. I know you guys are working round the clock. I just want to thank you for taking the time to update us tonight. Again,
Anytime.
Kohala Coast Urgent Care.com, guys. It's on the screen. Go check it out. If you guys got any questions, suggestions, or if you can help out in any way, just go ahead and message Dr. Akiona on Facebook, or let me know. I can relate a message. Appreciate you villagers tonight staying on board, and it was an awesome night. I had a good time, and thank you all. Bye. What's the doggy's name?
Say something.
What's the dog's name?
Not. What is
Mochi.
it? That's Mochi. So she's been quiet, but this is Mochi Libre. Like if you see Nacho Libre, this is his Asian cousin Mochi Libre.
All right. Well, we'll let you guys go. You guys take care. You guys, God bless. To the village. We'll be back on Friday night, 7 o'clock. You guys have a great week. Be
Yeah.
safe. All right. Be safe, everybody.
You're doing
All right.
good. You guys are doing good work. So please.
I don't know. We just gotta One more thing. Share this with everybody you know. Share it on your page. Share it everywhere. Let's get the word out. That's what it's gonna take, guys. We gotta keep each other safe. All right.
Yeah, we do.
All right. You folks take care. God bless. We love you guys.
Oh, wait, I gotta move
Mahalo.
this way.